Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Single Housewives. Today's topic is quite interesting and it goes a little bit deeper. It's crying. Crying is generally seen as a weakness, especially with women. Well, not especially with women, more so with men. But yeah, if you're a man or a woman, if you cry, that's seen as a weakness. So we're here to kind of debunk that and discuss whether or not it's true. Crying is seen as an acceptable feminine behavior. Men are expected to be like tough and stoic in most situations. And because of this stereotype, girls don't really want to cry because it's kind of labeling us as that weak figure, that typical woman being emotional and always crying. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the questions. So how often do you guys cry? What situations would make you cry?
Yo, I don't cry as often as I should, if that makes sense. You know when you want to cry and that's like the big knot in your chest,
Yeah.
but you keep it in? I'll cry maybe on my own in my bed, but rather not.
But like, what situation would lead you to just start crying? Or like to want to go cry at home?
Yo, there's a lot of things that would make me cry. I'm actually very sensitive and I'm a super emotional person. But for me, the moment things get too much for me or I need help, I would cry. But I'll never cry in front of people.
So what, would you just bottle up the emotion
I
until
would
you get
bottle
home
up.
and then go cry?
I'm 100% sure I'm like now 70% bottled up at the moment.
Damn.
No, I'm a really emotional person. A fun fact, I find it super difficult to cry in front of my family or with my family.
Wow. That's interesting because that's like actually where you should feel the most comfortable to cry.
Yeah.
What about you, small fry?
I also don't cry often, actually. But I think that's also a bit of a personality trait as well. I want to solve the problem. So in my head is crying won't help, let's solve the problem. But that's also not good. Because then you sometimes also you need to cry to release. I don't know. Just to make yourself feel. It's okay to feel. But then also I'm very logical. So I try to think, okay, let's solve it. And if we can't, then, well, you probably start crying. Because we feel very helpless.
Like crying is a last resort.
Like, yeah. All else failed, let's cry.
Otherwise you're just going to get in your way of solving the problem.
So,
But that's actually not a bad way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
so it's a
Like,
bit like that.
In a problem-solving manner, it's good. Like, if it's something that's just really upsetting you, I feel like you need to cry. Like, if it's really emotionally upsetting, crying can sometimes help. Okay, so if you have, like, cried, the times that you have cried, like, how did you feel afterwards? Did you feel better or worse?
Yo, I'm usually tired, dead tired.
Cries, boom, straight into a nap.
God.
Have you seen that clip on... I don't watch the show, but it was everyone on Instagram where it was like the Family Guy? It was like... and then he just like straight goes into bed. It's like you like crying, you have to go to work, but you don't have time to cry, so you go back to sleep. Exactly that anyway.
Yeah.
Crying straight back to sleep.
I think it does make you... Well, for me, it's sometimes I'm tired and I sleep. But if it's in the day and I have to get back to life, it does help me to just get it all out.
I think also, like, maybe when you cried, you didn't, like, feel euphoric after crying, but, like, in the long run, psychologically, it's good for you. And it makes a difference in the long run. Like, the times where I bottled up those type of emotions, then in the long term, that was bad for me.
Yeah.
And eventually it would just be like a ticking time bomb. It's like if you don't blow off some steam, there's gonna be an explosion.
Yeah.
Was there anything that would trigger you, like, to want to cry in public? Or like in a situation where you're not alone?
I think... Well, I'm a very scattered brain. So my head is everywhere. I actually take medication to help me concentrate because my head runs everywhere. So if things become too much suddenly in public, I wouldn't just cry, but as soon as I get home, I just have to lock the door and just sit.
For me, it's like if I get really helpless. Like if I'm in a situation at work and I'm fighting with my boss or with a colleague and they get angry, instant tears.
Yeah.
I just want to cry. I'm just like if you yell at me or you get angry at me, like you're someone I care about and you get angry at me, I will definitely cry. There's no stopping it. Floodgates open.
Actually, now that I think of it, I cry easily when I have to talk about something personal, spiritual. Tears come instantly. I can't even help it. It just comes. It's not crying. It's more like tears just falling. That always. It almost annoys me. So as soon as I have to talk about something sensitive or close to my heart, then it triggers it.
Did you guys have like a certain view on crying, like since you were young, and then like over time that's changed? Like now that you've become an older, like did your views on crying change, or do you think it's kind of the same and it's like a work in progress?
Mine changed definitely. Like what I mentioned before, when I was younger, I cried a lot publicly in front of my family, or I could talk to people and cry. Now, total opposite.
Yeah.
I cannot go talk to people about certain topics because I know I'm gonna cry. That's a big problem with me that I have to fix.
Flipped around.
It flipped around. I don't know if I experienced something or if I have trust issues or I don't know what, but I cannot go talk to people about certain things because I know I'm gonna cry and then I avoid the situation. And that's so bad because it bottles up in me. Yeah, I can cry now talking about that.
We'll get back
Let
to that.
let us see. Let us
We'll get back
see.
to the reasons of that, so start thinking about why. Because I'm getting back to you. Smofra, what about you?
It's still more or less the same. For example, my family is not very emotional. No one
Not
really
at all.
cries. My sister, I see maybe shed a tear once. My mom, never seen her cry. My dad, never seen him cry. But then I feel like I'm the most emotional person in the family.
Yeah.
Maybe they all are and they bottle it up. That's why I think I don't cry so easily, because I think, wait, they don't cry. Why am I crying?
Yeah, it's like an environmental reason for you
Yeah.
not crying.
I'm not blaming them for that. It's just...
No, it's
that's
just
how
how
they
you
are.
grew up, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to... It takes a lot for me, but I'm trying to allow myself to feel.
Yeah.
So if I talk to my dad or at home or to anyone or in a public area, I want to make myself feel like it's okay to cry. Even if everyone else around you doesn't cry, it's okay. So I'm learning that. So it's a work in progress.
But I can understand though where you're coming from, because like if you didn't grow up with like seeing your mom or dad cry or your siblings,
Yeah.
it kind of isn't normal for you to express that emotion yourself.
Yeah.
It's not nothing negative. It's not like somebody bottled up your emotions.
Yeah.
That's just how things played out,
Mm.
So you did grow up with that kind of mindset of crying's just not a thing we do here when you're sad.
Yeah.
And then now that you've grown up, it's like, oh, actually, I have some mental needs that need to be released.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I am gonna affect myself negatively.
No.
Like when I grew up, we didn't cry a lot, or I would see people in my family crying. We're a big family. Obviously, you'd see people crying, but it would usually be like in fights or because, I don't know, someone's thing got lost or some stupid reason. It wouldn't be the type of crying where we would express emotion. Like something really distresses you, you'd cry and someone would comfort you. That would never happen.
No.
And like hugging, any type of like comfort to that, or so I didn't grow up with that at all. And I would kind of even feel really like, apart from the societal norms of like women shouldn't cry, I didn't want to cry because I felt like that was seen as a weakness in my family. Like if you cry, that's like, oh, get over it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that
Not that deep.
deal. It's like just get over it and continue.
Yeah.
And it's actually not a good way to continue, because some things you really need to cry about, and if you don't, it's just a matter of time. Like emotions can't be bottled up. But in any case,
And
back
dangerous.
to the point. Then over time, as I grew up and I've seen and been exposed to many more opinions and views, I kind of just decided that if I want to cry, I'm going to cry.
Mm.
I don't care if you feel uncomfortable if I cry. I don't care what happens. Like
Watch
I've
me.
done it plenty of times. Like I don't care if it's my mom, my dad, colleague, sister, brother, any emotional distress will only be from your side.
Wow.
I will be fine just
Yeah.
crying. Because I just realized I need that. And
Mm.
I'm such an expressive person that if I don't just let it go now, I will suffer mentally
Yeah.
immediately. I can even just go into this depressive state, like instantly, if I don't get to release that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You inspire me.
You're a new
That's where I
hero.
want to be.
But I also feel like for me, crying, I wouldn't just cry in front of anyone. I'd feel like if I would end up crying in front of someone, they would have to help me.
Yeah.
The last thing I need to hear is, oh, sorry, oh, let me pat you on the back. I need to find a solution to
That's
what
like
the
your
issue
last
is.
resort.
Yeah. So
Right.
and I think that's why it also takes so much for me to cry in front of someone. In my head, I made myself so vulnerable. You have to help me. So it doesn't mean they help you on the spot, but they have me in their thought, and maybe after like a few days or weeks, they get back to me. Here's what I think you should do, or
But I
Here's
also
some
think
options.
like if you're not someone who cries a lot, you shouldn't also have to force it.
No.
You know, let's say you are just, regardless of your upbringing or whatever, if you're not someone who expresses emotion by crying, I don't think it's like just because everybody labels crying as such a good thing for your mental health, doesn't mean you have to now go force the tears.
Yeah. I want to feel.
And just because you don't cry doesn't mean you don't feel as well,
No.
Yeah.
right? Like maybe, let's say, Smofa, you're not someone who typically cries a lot. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be bad if you were brought up like that and you feel like you need to cry, but because of your upbringing you don't cry. That would
Yeah.
be bad. But just not being someone who expresses emotion as much through crying, I think is also fine.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think like with girls, just because of the whole stereotype thing of girls are always emotional, it's scary, or not scary, it's like embarrassing to fulfill that stereotype. It's
Yeah.
like everybody's gonna think you're crying because you're a girl, not because you're actually upset.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, she's just an emotional woman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we need to get back to that deep one, Kina. Did
Oh.
you think about it?
I did
Which one?
think about it.
Okay, so we're getting back to the previous question, and it was why you prefer crying in private
Oh.
rather than in public. Spit it out, Kina.
Yeah, so for me, I think, like, I thought a bit about it and I was like, wow, I feel like I'm actually now at a, what's it called? A session where you talk to
A therapist?
a therapist. I actually think I need to say therapist.
Therapy.
Yeah.
We're laughing, but it's
Just-
serious.
Yeah, it's serious though. Just to talk about, to express my emotions with friends and family. I think for myself when I was younger, it was easier to cry. And I am a person that needs affection. And also that helps me to cry for people. But I think with this big family, I was one of the younger ones. I kind of just slipped through without getting the affection that I needed. But also I didn't go out to ask, or I didn't show them that I actually need affection. So I think I grew up like that, that I kept myself away from my family, because not all of them are affection people. They don't need affection and stuff like that. I think it's more me, the younger ones. But I love them all very much.
Don't get me wrong.
But I think it came now to that point. I realized it recently, like a lot of things has happened with my life and I didn't know how to deal with it or whatever. And I felt like I didn't have my family or friends to talk to. But I think because I've never actually tried to go cry at someone, so I actually don't know how they would react. So I just...
But also think, also what you said, you just cry and you know what? You're the one who's uncomfortable here, but you're sorted. I think in that sense, you also, if you're an emotional person, in that sense, you have to be selfish. You just have to, you know what? I'm just going to cry now. And you know what? You're going to have to bear with me, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does take a lot. It's not easy.
No, definitely, especially if you grew up the way you did. I think a lot of our upbringing, not that I'm a therapist, but like a lot of things that we experience these days are because of our upbringing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't also undervalue seeing a therapist about stuff like that, because it puts things into perspective, like, okay, this happened because of that. And once you kind of the first step towards healing is just to acknowledge the problem.
Yeah. Now, it's very important to find the root first
Yeah.
of the issue. Otherwise, in a way, you're crying for nothing. Why are you
Yeah.
crying?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, wait. Let me take it back. Let me take some steps back, and then you're like, okay, this is what triggered it, or this is the issue.
Yeah.
That's how I think. Okay, so now let's try and figure out how do we solve that,
Yeah.
so that this doesn't trigger this emotion again.
But I just want to say something to
Yeah.
defend myself a bit in this topic. Not to defend myself, but I have really good friends and family, and I have people to talk to, but I feel like I don't have people to cry to. And that's something I need at the moment. I think now in life, I need people to cry to. But I have really good, I think that's something nice with girls that, because girls are such good listeners, like you can talk to them about anything, like with your friends and family, and that's super nice.
I sometimes feel like I also deal with a lot of things, and I feel like sometimes there's no one non-judgmental that I can talk to.
No.
It's not easy.
No.
And I think you'll have to give up something yourself
Yeah.
to find that person, because the problem is actually with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't trust, and
Yeah.
I'm scared of being vulnerable. And like, once I passed that barrier within crying in front of people, I realized, oh, it was really something in me that I had to let go.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't really matter how they reacted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we all grew up with our own issues with crying. How would you kind of approach that whole topic in your family one day, or just with any other younger girls to kind of...
Younger girls or boys.
Yeah, I wouldn't give younger
But-
boys
but
advice
I
on
mean-
crying.
But I mean,
But
guys
they can take
included.
note as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, how would you change that in a positive direction, so that people don't feel like they need to be alone to cry or be embarrassed to cry?
Yeah, so for me, I would say to talk more about it, to make it not an awkward or weird thing, but like a safe space that you know you're comfortable around these people because you've talked to them about it, or they've made it known it's okay to cry. But also something else, like I feel like girls sometimes do cry about really dumb stuff sometimes. Not typically just girls.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is maybe they're crying because it's actually something else they're sad about. That's what I've experienced by myself. But yeah, I would make it just a normal thing to talk about, because I didn't grow up talking about that crying is okay. You can cry. Cry when you feel like this. Don't keep it bottled up. So I'll make it feel like a safe space that, yeah.
But I think some people also just need to see you in that state.
That's exactly what I was
Where-
thinking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Where you also just, you just cry. Oh, yeah, they need to see you in that state to feel like, okay, they actually really do understand me. Okay, if I feel like this one day, I know I can go talk to her.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
look,
got
she
that.
cried in that situation and she
Yeah.
didn't die, so I can also do that.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is also our reaction to younger girls when they do cry.
Mm.
Whatever they cry for, I should just react in a loving manner, which will kind of teach them that I can... It's not necessary to cry about it really, but like, if I can create an environment where they feel safe to cry, they will kind of start feeling, oh, I don't need to cry about this to get attention,
Yeah.
and I will cry
Yeah,
about the
that's
things
the
I
thing.
need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And this person will act without a judgmental
Yeah.
way. So like, I feel like my reaction to that has to be good. I remember like situations where bad stuff happened and my sisters cried about it and I shamed them for it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my soul, you're so weak for crying about it. And I was
Yeah.
like, damn,
Bitch.
so callous. And now I'm like, it's not a natural thing for me, so it's even a little bit stiff when I do it, but I'm like, I hear you and I'm really sorry for what you're feeling, and how can I help? Even if you just want me to listen. Like, we kind of just want to assume what people need, but you have to ask.
Yeah.
You have
Actually.
to, communicate.
I was also wondering, I'm like, okay, if someone was to cry in front of me, what would I do? But you can ask.
Yeah.
And they can answer you while they're sobbing and sniffing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, it feels wrong and weird,
Yeah.
but that's the start, I
Yeah.
think. Like, the start of growing emotionally.
So I think if you also, while topics about crying and emotion, I think if you really learn to mature in that way, that it's okay to cry and whatever, and to find someone, you know, you're comfortable enough to cry to. You will also mature as a person, and you'll get to know yourself even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think at my stage in life, I really want to get to know myself. And I think when you test out all these different things, like crying and finding help and this, you'll really get to know yourself and who you should surround yourself with,
and to communicate your needs.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. That's, at least for me now, I had to put myself out there with my mental state. So I had to go see the doctor. Doctor gave me meds. I spoke to my parents, and I'm like, okay, I kind of know myself a bit more now. I should do this, I shouldn't do that. I should say no to this and yes to that. That's not on crying, but that's also on maturity.
Yeah.
So then also, for example, at home, if I get home, it was too much, I go to my room, my sister leaves me alone.
Yeah.
She just gives me time, I'm back, okay. Oh, it's just, it makes the environment, you grow up and it's healthy. That's just how I feel.
And I think to talk to the people you're surrounded with, like, hey, this is how it is right now with me. So like what you said, when you go to your room, your sister knows. I just give her time, she's gonna come out, it's gonna be fine. And then for someone else like me, if I would go somewhere, people would be like, okay, she needs someone, then they know they'll come, or stuff like that.
It's good to talk about it.
And just on on another note, like, again, I'm not a therapist, this is like what I think about humans. Like, I think humans are social creatures, and things go downhill when you handle things alone. Like, whenever I didn't talk about things that bother me and I get up all in my own thoughts alone, it's like I can go to a dark place really quickly.
It's spiraled down real quick.
Like, I recently moved out of the house, and I'm not like really far from the house, like the flat's just behind the house, but it's different. Suddenly I'm not surrounded by people all the time, and naturally I'm more alone, and I have to make an effort to go and connect with people, because I can just get so my thoughts can just go dark so quickly, because there's nobody kind of to pull me back to reality. Like, we need each other, and to talk to each other about things that bother us, or things that make us happy, and like, nothing has any worth if you can't share it. It's always better with someone else, not alone.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, well, I think that's it for today.
That was good.
We covered a wide variety of crying topics here.
I'm feeling better.
Good therapy session.
Yeah, so basically just, show emotion where it's needed, and
really find help.
Yeah, it's okay to find help, and you're not weak for it.
No.
In fact, you are pretty mature.
And you figured, you went to the source and you found the truth. Shit, I really need help.
Yeah.
Alright, guys, thanks for today.
Nice.
This is the Single Housewife signing off.
Bye.
Bye.
Who are we?